Hello viewers, welcome to QTP functional testing videos. Myself Uday, I'm an automation tester as like you. So in this video, I'm gonna demonstrate you about how to work with data tables. Generally, whenever we test an application, we don't test with a single set of test data. Rather, we will test multiple test data, right? So if you when you test multiple test data, you won't hard code these values in your script part. Rather, these values can be read from an external sources, and in our scripting we will use those variable names in our scripting part. So what I'm trying to say here is, for example, say there is a we need to write a function called insert customer with different values. Okay, say in the I would like to insert a customer. This is just a sample example. So first I would like to insert a customer with name A. After that I would like to insert a customer name with B and insert with a customer name C. So if I write a code like this, it's almost like an hard coding these values. Rather, what I will do is I will write a generic function, the same function, but rather than hard coding the value, we will be giving a variable name called say C name. Okay, where CNAME will be holding a different value for each iteration. Say for example, in the first iteration it will be having a value with A, and second iteration B, and in third iteration it will hold a value of C. Okay, by that way the script will be more readable. Like the values can be read as a dynamic manner rather than hard coding these values in our scripting, which is completely unreliable. So uh, in order to do like that, we will be using some external data sources. These external data sources can be a text file, a CSV file, or can be an Excel file, or can be a database. So rather than having hard coding these values, customer names and these values, right, we are replacing these values with a parameter. So this is what we call parameterization. QTP provides this parameterization functionality by using data table. So data table is something like we can be displayed like this. So in order to view this data table, you need to just click on this icon. Okay, or else if it is not displayed in here, you directly go to view and you can see the data table option here. So if you choose this option, it will be displayed. If you switch off this, then the data table won't be displayed here. So in order to view it, you just click on view menu and select data table. So the data table will be displayed here. Okay. What I'm saying here, the first point is QTP enables us to use and run steps that are driven by data stored in a data table. So what I'm this point says is we can put whatever the data required in a data table, and for each iteration which can read the data from the data table and will be used in our test script. Okay, so the second point what it says is to view or hide the data table point, select view data table or click on the data table toolbar button. So this what it says is you directly click on here data table icon, or else go to view and data table. Okay, and in the next slide, okay, let us see how we can use this data table. Okay, so a data table is just like an Excel sheet. It doesn't have anything much different between Excel and data table, but there are few limitations compared to Excel using data table. So see, are you seeing it? Here we will be having different sheets. Even Excel also we will be having different sheets, right? The same thing we will be seeing in a data table. Here we will be having, see, in this Excel file we will be having multiple sheets. In the same way in QTP also we will be having multiple data sheets. So what is a global data table? Global data table is where, for example, say if I have multiple actions in a test, you know, I want to use some variables across all the actions. So whatever the parameters that are I want to use across all actions, I can put it in a global data sheet. If for example, if there is any specific test data, if I want to use it for specific to that action, I can parameter in the respective action set. If you want to access any parameters which can be accessed in multiple actions, you can put it in a global data table. Okay, so which is similarly like exactly whatever the functionalities, like most of the functionalities available in excel sheet, excel files can be used in data table. Okay, so let's start using how to use the data table. So in order to provide any column name specific to an excel sheet, how we can do it here? You can directly give a name like this, input 1 or input 2, whatever it is in excel sheet, right? In the same way, in this column header, you need to double click on it. So once you double click on a specific column, it will be where we can give the specific column name. Okay, so I will be giving a name called input 1, and here I'm giving a column name called input 2. Okay, input 2. So basically what I am just covering in this example is like, giving two values, and I want to uh, the output of these sum of these two values, I wanted to put it in a third column. Okay, so what I want to do here is say some value. Okay, I will be giving different test input data. So like 34, and give some value 2, and say 77, say 71, say 90, 45. This is a random test data where, whatever input test data that we want to test with, we can put all these values in these external sources. Okay, say 78. Okay, this is my input test data. I would like to test the behavior of my application with, say, at this moment I am not going to test with any specific test data, but you can use this test data to do your operation. Okay, so let's see how we can retrieve the data from these data tables and use in our script. Okay, so there are how many rows of data existing in this table? First we need to find out the number of rows that are existing in the data table. Okay, so in order to do that, what we can use a function like row count equal to data table dot get row count. What the get row count method will return is, it will return you the number of rows existing in your data table. Okay, after that you can see at this moment I'm interested in working on global data sheet, right? So you can set whatever the sheet that for example, if you might be interested in setting working on action 1, you need to set the data table. Okay, so before to that, what I'm doing is I'm setting the I'm get the data table. Okay, dot get sheet. So where we can specify the sheet id. Okay, so at this moment I am interested in global data sheet where it is in the sheet id is 1. Okay, so I said like even for example, say, right, if we have multiple sheets, you need to set the whatever the data sheet that you want. At this moment this is in my sheet global data sheet with sheet id 1 2 like that. So as I am interested in global, I am setting the sheet id as 1. Okay, so once I set the sheet ID, I am first fetching the number of records exist in my data table. Okay, So what I want to do here is now, like, I want to iterate through each row, right? So what I'm doing is, for I equal to 1 2 1 to 2, what, how many rows we have, the rows count will be whatever the rows count which is required. I want to iterate through all these rows, right? So I will put I will, for I want to iterate through 1 to row count. Okay, so once we have the uh, row count, what I want to do is, I want to iterate through each individual row, right? In order to set that, what we will do is data table dot set current row. So what uh, set current row will do is, it will points to the specific set of row number. So for example, see, how we will iterate 1 2 3 4, right? So each row will be like holded, the value of that iteration will be stored in I. So I want to set the row as I. So for first iteration it will be holding with the value of 1, for the next iteration it will be 2, for the next iteration 3, like that. Okay, now once I set my pointer at here, what I need to do, I need to retrieve a specific value from here. So what I will do is, ip1 equal to data table dot value. In order to read any value from a specific data sheet, we need to use this data table dot value, where the first parameter has in it, this is the parameter id. The parameter id here is, see, this is my first parameter, this is my second parameter, and this is my third parameter, right? So I can give the parameter id. So at this moment I'm interested in getting the value from, did you remember, we already set this row, but now we are giving the parameter id. So parameter id is something nothing but a column number. So we can give the value as 1, and the sheet id, as I already told you, global is in sheet id as 1. Okay, like the same way I can get the parameter value in my second column. So in order to retrieve that, what I have to do here is, in place of because I want to retrieve the second parameter, I need to change it to 2. Okay, whatever the value which is retrieved, like, I want the sum of these two values to be displayed in here, right? So in order to do that, what here we are in these two steps we are reading the value, whereas now I want to insert a value in my third parameter. So what I have to do is data table dot value. Okay, what is the parameter id here? It is third parameter, and the sheet id is 1. Okay, where I want to set it, right? So whatever the value I would like to set, I can give like this. So this value will be set in this column, right? So here my test is like, I want to input the value from 1 and 2, the sum of IP1 and IP2, I want to put it in third column. So what I have to do here is, just remember, we need to give cint, because whatever the value which read from the cell will be in a string format. Okay, so here see, even we are giving a numeric value. If we didn't give cint, what it will do is, it will treat it as a string. So in order to avoid that, what we have to do is, we need to convert into an integer type. That can be done using cint function. Okay, so ip1 plus cint ip2. So the return value of the sum of ip1 and ip2, I am putting it into a third this value, like for each iteration it will be different, right? So here I want the sum of these two values into this third parameter id. Okay, so Let's start executing it. Let's see what the values that we are getting it in here. Okay, so I'm setting it to my first value, row count. Do you see this? Row count is 4. We have 4 rows of data, so row count will be 4 at this moment. Okay, data table at this moment, set current row I will be setting into my first row. Okay, and IP1 value and IP2. So see, IP1 value will be 34 and IP2 value is 2. Okay, and I'm setting IP1 and IP2 in a third parameter, right? See, did you see that? It picked these two values and some added these two values and put it in the third parameter. Okay, now it will be like, in the second iteration I value is 2, right? So did you see this? This is I value 2, and now after IP1 and IP2, what are these values? 77 and 71. You see that we get 77 and 71. This, whatever the value after addition, it will be put it in here. Do you see the sum? Yes. So like that, it will iterate through all the rows of data. Did you see anywhere that I hard coded this value in my script? No, right? I am putting all the input data into some external sources from where our script will be reading the data and performs the operation. Okay. So that's it. Uh, Here I would like to mention one thing. See, it will be going from the first line because there is one setting where we need to configure that value. Let me show you that. Settings, go to run properties. Did you see this data table iteration? Run on all rows. What it will say is, like for example, 4 rows are there, right? It will be, the script will be executed, the whole script will be executed 4 times. Rather than that, we can use run one iteration, or we can configure this. Okay, let me re-execute one more time. And there is one point I need to mention here. So I'm just as you have seen it, right? I'm see, so first iteration, second iteration is completed, third iteration completed, fourth iteration completed. Once it iterates to all this data, the execution will be completed. Okay, so see what happened. Did you guys observe here? The values are not displayed here. Yes, it's the functionality that data table provides. Whatever you are seeing here is called design time data table. Okay, you can so data tables, right? We have two types of data tables. One is design time data table and another one is runtime data table. So the thing that is displayed in here is called design time data table. So where is my runtime data table? Yes, it's there. Once you go and see your result, did you click on runtime data table? See, here it is. The values of some value is displayed here. So what will happen is, whenever you are open a test, it will show you the design time data table. During running, it will be replaced with my runtime data table. Once the execution completes, again only the design time data table will be displayed. The runtime values can be displayed only in runtime data table in results view. But like for example, say if you are more interested in this value, right? So whatever, once you are done with your operation, it is no need, like these are already input parameters. I am more interested in this output value. Okay, so in order to look out those values in, I'm not interested in verifying in the test result. So what you have to do is, you can use a function called data table dot export, where you can specify a name where it will store all the runtime data table values. Okay, that I will be like import and export I will be covering in a few seconds. Okay, But I hope you guys are clear about how to retrieve a value and how to set a value, and where once you set a value, where the values will be displayed, right? Okay, so see, now we'll like the data your test uses is stored in a design time tab, design time data table. So this is what the design time data table. Okay, and the during run session, QTP creates and displays a live version of runtime data table. While debugging, I have shown you the data table. So that is what the runtime. So during runtime, what it will do is runtime data table will replace the design time data table. Okay. Once the run session ends, QTP closes the runtime data table, and runtime data is not saved with your test. So whenever I'm saving it, even it will show you only the design time data table. It won't show you the runtime data table. If you are more interested in runtime data table, you need to use data table dot export and give the file name where the runtime data table is also saved. For example, let me demonstrate you that one as well. So data table. Look, okay, I will be like I will be covering that in few seconds. I have planned for that. Okay. So you can see the runtime version of data in the test results. Whatever I have shown you in the result window, right? That is the runtime data table. We can use data table dot export where we can see the runtime data table. Okay, runtime values. Okay. I hope you are clear more about how to retrieve a value and how to iterate through each individual rows, and you can specifically retrieve any specific cell value from this example, right? So let me copy this. I'm just copying it, and now we will see how we can directly, for example, where see in this example, right, I have set everything in the data table. We can also parameterize, like where our input data can be stored from any Excel file. Okay, our input parameter, see in real time applications, right, the data can be stored in any external file. Okay, if your data is storing any Excel file, we can use data table dot import method, where it will read the data from that Excel sheet and put it in here. Let's see how that get display, how we can do that. So what I'm doing here is I'm just creating an Excel sheet. Okay, just make sure that if you are working with new versions of Excel, right? For example, see, I will demonstrate you that one as well. F2, I'm putting it as input data. Okay, input one, say 1 2 3. Okay, so what I want to do is, this time I want to read the data from the Excel file which I created just now, and I want to use import the data to a data table and want to utilize that data. Okay, to do that, what I have to, so let me copy this in a notepad. This code I will be using here in now in the next example. Okay, so what I want to do here is data table dot like import. We need to mention the file name, right, where exactly I have created it. Dot input data dot xls. Okay, there is some small error here. I will show you what exactly it is. Okay, it will throw you some error now. I just want to tell you about that. So whenever you are trying to import data from XLSX, so if you work with any newer versions of Excel, it won't import. Okay, rather you have to put the data in Excel format only, XLS. So what I have to do is, all it won't work with the newer versions of Excel. Rather, it will work with old Excel template, like where you can choose Excel 97 2003 workbook. Save as. Okay, where I will be putting these values: input 1, input 2, 5, no, 9, this time 9, say 4. Okay, I save this data. So the same example, right? I'm just now, rather than getting, okay, and, I will create a new tab. Okay, first make sure that I want to iterate to the only once for each row. Okay, data table dot import. I need to mention the file name which is stored in this path. Okay, input data, input data dot it is not coming up. Let me, okay, slash input data dot xls. This is my file, right? Control C. Okay, so the same thing, whatever the code which I explained you earlier, right? I'm just copy pasting it here. So see, so get sheet 1. So here also my data is existing in first sheet, right? So it should work. Whatever, why the values are not saved here? Okay, maybe no problem. Input 2, say 7 4 9. Okay, yes, save it, close it. Let me see. Oh, sorry, it's my bad, my bad. This is my Excel, right? Okay, so uh, now what I want to do here is, once the computation is done, right, I want to export to an Excel file. Okay, in this example I am more interested on import and export. So read the data from some file, and you can save, like whatever the path name you have given here, you can give the same name, so that whatever the updations have done, that can be overwrite in this file. Okay, okay, let me do that. I'm mistake. Am I doing any mistake here? I hope no. Let's see. Once we'll execute it, and if there are any mistakes, I will go through. Did you see this? Data table dot import. What it do? Whatever the values there from that Excel sheet, it read the data from that Excel sheet and put it here. Okay. I'm just getting the data sheet 1 row count. How many rows are there now? It's 3 rows. So 3. Data table set current row IP1 and IP2, input parameter value 1 and 2. First time it is 1 and 5. So 1 and 5 came here. Oh, something went wrong here. The set data table value of it's my bad. Okay, I got it. What the error is? In this file, mention say give the value some value. Okay, so because this value is not set and there is no value in here, while after import, right, there is no value in here, it find a mismatch because this the third parameter we didn't configure it here there. Okay, so let's see, this time it should work. Okay, F11, go to IP1 and IP2 is 1 and 5. Now I am setting it in the third parameter. Okay, F11C, 1 plus 5 is 6. 6 is displayed here. After that, next iteration, IP1 and IP2. 2 plus 9, 11 should come here. Yes, 11. It came. Third iteration, 3 plus 4, 7. So, once, see what I told you earlier, this is what is called runtime data table. It won't be displayed after this execution is done, right? So, I'm more interested on these values. So if you're more interested, what you have to do is you have to export the table, and from where you can read it. You can use the same file name, import and export with the same file, then it will be updated. Okay. And I say F11, see whether it has saved my data or not. You guys see that? Whatever the runtime data table values are exported to the Excel file. That is how the runtime values will be stored. Okay. So when you save your test script, if you save the data in XLS file, for example, say if I save my file here, I would like to save um, say training and training. So training data table says one. Okay. When I save this, what it will do is it will save it in XLS file training data table 1. Sorry. Oh, sorry, it's my bad. Because the runtime, it won't save you the runtime data table, right? If you, I think in our previous example where we have already configured the IP input values, input 1 and input 2, once you save that values, those will be displayed in this path. Okay. For example, if I configure in here, like say IP1, IP2, in my previous example, I stored those values here, right? So those values will be displayed in this file. Okay, but in this example, I'm reading these values from this external file, right? So that's the reason it's not displaying any value. Okay, got it? If you are like, where you manually already configuring here, those values will be displayed in this file. Okay. The second point, we can use data table dot import and data table dot export for using external Excel file. Okay, that is what exactly I demonstrated now. You can save the data table at default location, or you can specify the name and location. So what this point says is, for example, say the input data we are using here is from one file path location, right? For example, you can read and save the Excel file in the default location, or we can put it in a common shared file path where other other tests or other users or other automation testers can access. Okay, that can be configured in here, file settings. Just click on resources. Did you see this? Whenever you say, like, if you the default XLS file, right, which I shown you just now, which can be saved with this test, or you can specify a name where you can specify somewhere some example. Just go through this warning message where you can specify the external file path. Okay. And the use of complex and or nested formulas in data table is not supported. So what this point says is here is okay, let me clear on this input one. To cover this point, I'm just giving some values here. Okay, input 2, 5, some 3, 6, 7, 1. Okay, this is it. So we can, as in Excel file, right, we can also use some formulas in data table. So let's see how we will do. What I want to do here is sum of A1 and B1, right? A1 comma B1. Did you see that? Data table also it will compute the formulas. Okay, you can just keep dry it. Did you see this? You are getting these values, sum of this and this. Okay, so whatever the formulas and all also we can use the data table. But what this point says is we can't use like heavyweight formulas and all whatever we are using in Excel. The same we cannot use in the data table. That is a restriction. Okay. And the next one is there are some guidelines we need to follow when we are working with the data table. So the first line is what the guideline is. We must enter data in rows from top to bottom and left to right. For example, see, I have data from one row, second row, third row. I cannot insert any data in sixth row. If I try to enter some value, it won't enter. Rather, it will enter a value in here. You see that? That is the guideline number one. Okay. And second one, the value written from the data table is always converted to a string by default. That is the reason I convert the type to C integer. Okay. If you didn't converted into cint, as with our example, it just concatenate IP1 and IP2. So we need to be take care whenever we are reading the value, which by default it is string type. If it is any integer type, we need to typecast that value. Okay. And third point, in order to delete any data, use edit or delete. For example, see, in this example, what I am doing is, for example, if I want to delete this row, I just selected that row and I'm clicking on delete. Okay, it will show you some. I'm in the assumption that the data got deleted, but it won't delete the data. Let me. Okay, and let me comment this line. I would have covered this one in my previous example itself, but no worries. What I am doing here is okay. Uh, Let me do this data table dot, or else we can put like this. Okay, 4 9 right 22 say someone whatever the formula. I'm just pulling it here. Okay, now what I'm doing here is I'm just deleting this data. Yes. So now how many rows of data it exists? You can see only 3 rows of data, right? But if you print it from home, print data table dot get row count. Okay, and just put random weight. Just while debugging, I want to show you that value. That is the reason I'm just putting weight, but don't bother about that. Okay, see, whenever you put it, it will show you 4 rows of data. Did you see that? But in my data table, only three rows of data exist, right? Yes, correct. Whenever you are selecting a any specific row and clicking on delete won't delete the data. Did you see the observe this? There is a black line. This is the border is black. So what internally it will do is might be the data might be deleted, but internally QTP understands that still the data exists. Okay, the see these lines are grayed, whereas this row is displayed as black, right? So only the data got deleted, but it's not completely deleting the data. Rather, in order to do delete that, what you have to do is you just select that row, click edit and delete. Now did you observe that the black line is not displayed here, it is grayed out. Okay, just stop now, rerun this the same thing. Let's see what will be displayed here. Oh no, just a second, this data is not delete. Now I'll rerun. Okay, did you guys see that? This time it populated with a value 3. Okay, that is how we have to delete. You just need to select the row, whichever row you want to delete. Okay, once you select the row, you just right click on it, edit, delete, or control K is the shortcut key to delete the data. That is a graceful way of deleting the data in data table. Okay, so that's all in this video. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments, please leave the comments after watching this video. Okay, thanks for your time. Bye bye.